I hope everybody enjoyed my Super Bowl wrap-up show. This is James Schneider for Real Steel Sports, live here on Spreaker Web Radio. Now I'm going to talk about the 2014 Hall of Fame class, and it features the following, for those of you that didn't catch it. Tampa Bay linebacker Derek Brooks, punter Ray Guy, defensive end Claude Humphrey, offensive tackle Walter Jones, wide receiver Andre Reed, defensive end Michael Strahan, and quarterback Aeneas Williams. Now, before we get started here, I would like to congratulate each of the candidates. You were some of the most phenomenal players at your position to ever play the game. You guys definitely pardon me, my browser froze for a second. You guys are some of the best players to ever play the game at your position, and you truly deserve this honor to enjoy it. But my class, I only had 5 guys going in because I didn't know that Ray Guy and Claude Humphrey were senior members. I didn't know that. My 5 players that were active that were going in, I did have Derek Brooks. I did have Michael Strahan, but I didn't have anybody else. I'm kind of surprised Will Schultz didn't get in, but the one guy that I'm really happy to see get in is Ray Guy, because Ray Guy is, for one, the only punter ever drafted in the first round. And he's the greatest punter of all time. He really is. If you look at the hang time he got on his punts, it allowed the Raiders, return coverage to get to him, to get to the kick returner or punt returner and stop him before he could make any yardage. It was incredible how good he was with his hang time. Now, first I'd like to highlight each of the members of the class besides Ray Guy. First off, number 1, linebacker Derek Brooks for Tampa. 1,301 career tackles, 13.5 sacks, 25 interceptions. Incredible year. One of the best 4-3 outside linebackers to ever play. 2012 Defensive Player of the Year, winning the Super Bowl with Tampa. Time a Pro Bowler. He absolutely deserved to go in. I predicted him to go in. He's one of the best 4-3 linebackers ever. Was absolutely a perfect fit for the Tampa 2 defense. Literally, that defense was made for him. He's smaller than most linebackers, but he hits you so hard and he's so fast. It's like a safety and a linebacker. He can run like a safety, can hit like a linebacker. And he's so smart too. He's never out of position. If you're looking at the modern defense and you're looking for a 4-3 outside backer, I think Derek Brooks is as good as any. Ray Guy, of course, the hang time he was able to put on his punts was amazing. So happy to see him going as a senior candidate. Claude Humphrey, the defensive end, not really a popular name. 1968 Defensive Rookie of the Year and 6-time Pro Bowler. According to the Pro Football Hall of Fame, because they didn't record sacks official until 1982, he earned 122 in his career, which is relatively impressive. He retired in 1981, but to get elected 33 years later, as a senior member, I can't argue, because he came to the Eagles after how many years with the Falcons, and got them, assisted them in getting to a Super Bowl. Very impressive with him. Walter Jones, damn was he good. 13 years in the league, started 180 games. First offensive lineman in Seattle's history to get elected to the Pro Bowl. First team All-Pro 4 times, and was the All-Decades offensive lineman for the 2000s. One of the best from his generation, absolutely. You can't, Jonathan Ogden and then Walter Jones. Just incredible how good they both were. Andre Reed. His numbers are not impressive in today's era, and I pointed that out. But for the era he played in, he was one of the best. And two things that made him successful that I overlooked when I did my earlier show. For one, I've always thought that he deserves to go in. Number 1, he was so consistent. Number 2, he played in Buffalo. Think about it. He played in Buffalo. Buffalo's not really conducive to throwing in the wintertime. He's so consistent. He's got good hands, a great route runner. Hell, he went to Kutztown State and became a Hall of Famer. Here's what NFL Hall of Fame wide receiver Michael Irvin had to say about Andre Reed. It was tough for a wide receiver to get in, but it should not be so tough for Andre Reed. It's ridiculous. Andre Reed's receptions led to 4 straight Super Bowls for this team. These were all meaningful, direct receptions. Don't tell me about a guy who has 12 or 1,300 receptions, but they were never on a winning team. I don't care about that. They were superfluous plays made when it didn't count. Andre Reed made plays when it counted. I hope it's this time he deserves it. 7 straight Pro Bowls, and he was so good at turning a long pass into a short pass to a long gain. It was physical, it was tough to bring down. He's as big, strong a receiver as you're ever going to find. He's pretty much a template for a big receiver. If you wanted a big guy, Marcus Colston reminds me of him. How big and strong they are. Just incredible. Well deserved from Andre Reed. And next, Michael Strahan. Warren Sapp, you can kiss my ass. Strahan's as good a defensive end as the game has seen. And I'll tell you why he was so good. He played the run very well, and he spent 15 years with the Giants, all 15 years. First team All-Pro 4 times and 142.5 sacks. 22 and a half the single season record. Guys, I think we need to let the Brett Favre play go. If Strahan had such a beat on Brett Favre on that play, he was going to sack him. And the emotional leadership he displayed over the course of the season on the way to the Giants winning the Super Bowl over the Patriots is what puts him over the top. He's a borderline Hall of Fame candidate without that win. He becomes an almost first ballot with it, and he's an absolute deserving member of it. Now, the only guy on the Fox pregame show that isn't in the Hall of Fame is Jimmy Johnson. Cowboys. Them Cowboys. No, I want the Cowboys just being funny. And the final guy is Aeneas Williams. Not really sold on him. 55 career receptions and 23 fumble recoveries, and being a pain in the ass for offenses. 8 Pro Bowls, and he was a safety when he made the Pro Bowl 35 years old. You know what? I don't think I gave him enough credit as a quarterback as I should have, but I definitely didn't give him enough credit as a defensive back. He was a playmaker, and he was damn good at it, so I got to give him credit. Not so sure he should have been putting over some of the other guys, but I do believe that he was eventually going to get in. And hey, everybody who gets in the Hall of Fame, I think, deserves it. There's a couple of guys that disagree with their induction because of the talent around them, but that's a different story. Now, for the 2014 finalists this year, if you look at the guys that didn't get in, the other ones, Morton Anderson, Jerome Bettis, Tim Brown, Eddie DeBartolo Jr., Tony Dungy, Kevin Green, Charles Haley, Marvin Harrison, John Lynch, Will Shields, and that's it. Those guys all deserve to be Hall of Famers, but I am kind of surprised by 2 omissions from this class. The one being Marvin Harrison. He's arguably the 3rd or 4th most prolific wide receiver in league history, and he made some ridiculous catches and some of the best hands in league history. And the other guy I'm kind of surprised by his omission of is Will Shields. I thought he would get in, but I got to give credit to where credit is due. I don't really know. I'm not up to date on who's going to be a candidate next year. But if there's one senior guy that I want to see go in the Hall of Fame, it's Ken Stabler, the quarterback for the Raiders, because he gave the Steelers defense as much problems as anybody. And that's the Steelers of the 70s he gave the problems to. He was so good. He was shifty, could run, he really had a good arm. He had the best statistical seasons of any quarterback for a 4 or 5 year stretch in the 70s. And that was back when the rules were like, hell, if you want to hit the receiver and knock his ass out, you can do that before the ball's even thrown. So that being said, there's a bunch of guys that I think deserve to go in the Hall of Fame that are not in the Hall of Fame. And I'm going to bring up my list of guys that are not in the Hall of Fame that I believe should be in the Hall of Fame. This could take a second for me. Here we go. The document is opening. My list of the top 10 players not in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Number 10 is Sterling Sharp, because Shannon Sharp did go in, but if Sterling Sharp would have had a few more years left, he'd easily pass 10,000 yards and been one of the quickest to do so. And he is so underrated as a receiver in NFL history. He's not given the credit he deserves. He really isn't. Number 9 on the list is L.C. Greenwood. Now, say what you want about the Steelers having enough guys in that defense. They don't. In games when Joe Green did not play, L.C. Greenwood took the hell over. He had 4.5 sacks in one quarter in a game against Cleveland. That's enough said. 4.5 sacks in a quarter in overtime. Damn impressive. And the fact that he was an All-Pro, one of the best defensive ends of all time, he was so good, really, he was so big and tall, he was like almost unblockable. Bull rush you, go around you, run through, it didn't matter. He was getting the quarterback. Number 8 on the list is Ricky Watters. Now, Ricky Watters has more combined yards in his career than Franco Harris and Jim Brown. Pardon me. Now, but Ricky Watters, Ricky Watters will get in the Hall of Fame. He will. His numbers are so good. He's won a Super Bowl, had 3 touchdowns in that game against the Chargers, had 5 touchdowns in one playoff game against the Giants. He's good. But the fact that he, in some press conferences, could kind of show a lack of caring for the game, and the fact that he'd be like, oh, I get all these yards, I'm balling. Sometimes he should have just shut his mouth and played, but his numbers are good enough to get him in. If you just judge these guys and what they did in the football field, Ricky Watters is a Hall of Fame running back. Hall of Fame running back, pardon me. Number 6 is Tim Brown. Great punt returner, great receiver, made athletic catches, was fast, the best receiver prolifically in the history of the Oakland Raiders. And he played with average quarterbacks. I mean, Rich Gannon had a couple of good years, that's about it. He had to play with Jeff George, and I can't even begin to think some of the other quarterbacks he played with, and yet he still put up numbers. You put up numbers with an average quarterback, that just goes to show how good you are. Number 5 for me is Kevin Green. 3rd most sacks in league history, enough said. He did it as a defensive end and as an outside linebacker. That's not really something that's easy to do, to play end in a 4-3 and then linebacker in a 3-4. And to be an all-pro at both, that's impressive. The only thing that keeps him out is the fact he was a journeyman throughout his career. Played for the Rams, the Steelers, the Niners, the Panthers, you name it.